We start, therefore, this afternoon with this business of a tripartite soul. Tripartite means three parts, which isn't quite accurate for Plato. He nowhere, I think, says three parts. He does say three elements. Three elements. That they are, I think, three functions. Three levels of functioning, perhaps, in the soul. And those three levels of function, those three elements, are, respectively, the intellect, the spirited, translations often say spirit, but spirit in our idiom is a weasel word. If you're talking of spirit in, I suppose, theological context, you're thinking of some immaterial being. That's not what he's talking about here. If you talk about spirit in the context of German and European thought, you're talking of cultural activity. The life of the spirit is the life of the culture. And that's not what he's talking about here either. The closest I can get, I think, is the spirited element, spunk, initiative, drive. In that sense, the cognitive. We sometimes say will, but then we tend to narrow down the concept of will to simply making choices. You see. So the spirited element, you know what a spirited horse is like. It's always rearing to go, lots of energy, lots of drive, lots of initiative. The spirited element. And then thirdly, the appetitive element. Appetites, desires, wants. And I suggest that these are three levels of the soul with corresponding activities. Because quite obviously animals have desires, appetites, instinctual drives, so forth. And you could talk of a spirited horse, not a rational horse. So inasmuch as soul is a word that applies to all living things, when you're talking of humans, you have to recognize there's a level of soul in humans that doesn't exist in other living things. And that distinctively human level of soul is the rational. So in these three levels of soul, three elements, if you like, it's the rational which distinguishes the human soul. When we get to Aristotle, we'll find that he talks of the rational soul as distinct from the sensitive soul, the soul that has sense experience, as animals do. Yes. But these three elements, then, and in characteristic fashion, because soul and body are united in this life, he locates these three elements in different parts of the body. So that the intellect, obviously, is going to be located in the head, the spirited, the spunk, in the chest, where the heart beats fast with excitement and expectation, energy, and the appetitive in the stomach, the bowels, the viscera, the guts, affected by our emotions. So this is his, if you like, primitive sort of psychology. It's sort of an anticipation of the three faculty psychology that developed in the 18th century, if you're familiar with that. Intellect, will, and emotion was the way they taught it. But it's an anticipation of that, it's not the same. Now, inasmuch as these three elements of the soul, there is, corresponding to each of the three elements, its appropriate activities. And its appropriate good, its telos, its goal, its natural purpose, its natural good. Where the telos, the goal for the intellect and its development, is to achieve wisdom. The good, the ideal for the spirited, is to be courageous. And the good, the proper functioning of the appetites, is temperance, or self-control, as it's called. And in that way, he identifies and begins to develop an ethic, because here are three virtues. Three of the classic four Greek virtues. Now, keep in mind that in the overall picture, the Greeks are interested in this notion of an ordered unity with the idea of cosmic justice. A cosmos that has such ordered harmony, balance, and unity that you can call it a just universe, cosmic justice. And a city-state that is harmoniously ordered and unified so that you can call it a just society. And likewise, a human being, an individual, the elements of whose life, soul, are so harmoniously ordered and balanced that you can call this a just person. So the just person is one in whom these three elements perform their respective functions aright, with the result that you have a harmoniously ordered life. And to perform their functions aright, the intellect, of course, reason, must rule. That is to say, must guide, give guidance to the spirited. So that the spirited doesn't run off in all directions without rhyme or reason, but is guided by reason, given direction. Boundless energy without rational direction is asking for trouble. Boundless energy without rational direction tends to come under the control of the emotions, the passions, the desires. You see. And so the spirited has to be guided by the intellect, and then the spirited can bring its energies to bear as rationally directed in controlling the appetites. You see. The control of the appetites. And the overarching concern that runs all the way through Plato's Republic is the question how in a just society are we going to control human desires and appetites and self-interest. It's a big issue for political thought. How can we prevent egoism getting out of hand? And that's still worse, whether we're talking of the banking industry, or problems with distribution of healthcare in America. Didn't Coop say, what did Johnson who said on Monday night, that all five elements in the picture are to blame? Self-interest out of hand? You see? The big question. So this is his analysis of the human soul. Now, the papers I just collected, your outlines of the Phaedrus, should show that you know all about that. Because while he lays it out in this fashion in the Republic, it's reflected in the Phaedrus, in that myth of the winged horses. You remember? Here's a chariot being drawn by two winged horses, guided, steered by charioteer, soaring aloft towards the untrammeled, unhindered, uninterrupted vision of the sun in all its brilliance and beauty. The trouble is that one of the horses is always unruly, running off after this, that, and the other, whatever it wants. You see? The appetites. And the other horse has the strength to control it. But in driving a team, which is an art that in modern society we know nothing about driving a team of horses. Anybody here ever driven a team of horses? Well, one, two. Notice that they're the senior citizens. In driving a team of horses, I'm told, you have to give the lead to the one who's naturally the lead horse, has the strength to control the others. Takes the initiative. So the charioteer represents the intellect. Okay. Driving the team aright gives the lead to the spirited horse that's able to control and give lead, that's the term, to the appetitive horse. So that the thing is able not just to stay afloat, but make progress. And of course, remember that when they flood, down they come crashing. And if they really crash land, they have to start all over again, the thing will begin another life. The picture of successive incarnations. And so that the charioteer is his graphic way of talking about the struggle of the human soul. The quest for the good. Well, the tripartite soul, then, occupies his attention, and notice that the soul is not just, accordingly, a passive kind of thing reacting to environmental circumstances. The soul is an active thing seeking its end, its good, its goal. It's goal-oriented, teleological. That's nature. Well, the remaining item about the soul is this business of two loves. That's already implicit in the discussion of the Phaedrus, isn't it? That if the appetites are set on what's below, down you come, baby, cradle and all. You see. But if the love, if the desire, is on things above, you see, thanks to the guidance of intellect, with eyes on those ideal forms, and eventually on the form of the good, that which is beauty itself. You see, eyes on the goal, eyes on the prize. Then you make progress. Two different loves. The word for love that he uses in both cases is the term eros, desire. You see. The question is what you desire, what you want. What is the highest desire, the supreme desire, the supreme love, to which other loves contribute and from which they spring? What is the highest love? And that's a theme that's picked up by Christian writers, St. Augustine. Any of you read his Confessions? If you haven't, do. When you finish the Republic, go and read the Confessions. You could read it as a classic of the spiritual life. Actually, it's his philosophical as well as spiritual autobiography. But if there's one big impression that you get in reading Augustine's Confessions, is that he's torn between two loves. He's torn between two loves. Very much reflecting the Platonic picture. But whichever love it is, in either case, it is the soul's love that moves the individual. We're moved most by what we love. You see. So in order to understand Plato's picture of the soul and its pilgrimage, you have to see something of the relationship between knowledge and love. I said guided by reason, but motivated by love. You get the two? There are passages in Plato which have led some people to say that according to Plato, if you know what you ought to do, you can do it. Now that's not true to Plato, taken as a whole. It's not enough to know the good. You have trouble doing it unless you love the good. So the question that has to be raised when we get to talking of the improvement of the soul is how do you get people to love the good? Not only know the good, but love the good. It's a crucial question. And you can see that he's talking here about what we call values, developing values, transmitting values, value education. The word value can function as a noun. It's an ideal that we say we ought to pursue. But the word value can function also as a verb. To value something, to love something, to prize it, to want it, to desire it. You see. And Plato's called both. You have to know the good, but you have to love the good. Both. Now, plainly, it's the charioteer that gives the guidance. But it's not the intellect as such which has the power to govern the wild desires of that untamed horse. So that Plato's conception of the life of the soul is not one of purely objective or factual knowledge. It's not one of purely theoretical discussion. There has to be more to it than that. What Plato talks about is a mind, an intellect that is filled with wonder. You see, filled with wonder. Yeah. He talks not of knowing, but of contemplating. Contemplative thought is the highest kind of thought. Now, that's not just being able to figure out the equations, work the logical proofs, tease all your friends with dialectic. You see. Now, contemplation is not only identifying what is the good, but delighting in it. You see, reflecting on it, pondering it, looking at it, absorbing it, wondering, standing in wonder. that's the sort of experience we get in the face of natural beauty. Have I talked about this before? In the face of natural beauty? No. I remember an occasion in World War II, on the top deck of a troop ship somewhere off the coast of Iceland, one November. To keep us out of mischief, they had us standing guard duty on the top deck. I never figured out quite why, what we were guarding against. I think it's just to keep us out of mischief. But I remember being on guard duty there on the top deck of this troop ship, converted Cunard liner, in the middle of the night, starless sky, the Arctic cold, the superstructure of the ship swaying gently against the night sky, not a light anywhere on the ship or anywhere. After all, U-boats. And just standing there in sheer amazement at it. You see? As far as the eye could reach, stars, stars, stars. Gently moving superstructure. Well, that's when your mind is filled with wonder. Admiration. A sense of awe. I won't say enjoyment, because frankly, in the back of your consciousness, you wonder what's out there in the dark. But wonder. Now, that's the sort of attitude which Plato is after, that the mind should have, concerning the good. You say, well, it sounds like a religious kind of wonder. Yes. And this is what Jewish and Christian and Muslim writers pick up on. You see, in the development of the mystical literature of the Middle Ages. They describe the contemplative wonder of God in terms of Platonic contemplation. Well, filled with wonder, with love for the good, you see, keep in mind that the virtue of the intellect is not just knowledge in the sense of cumulative information or the like. It's wisdom. The wisdom that results from not just acquiring knowledge, but from a contemplative delight in the good. So that it becomes part of your being, to pursue good. Wisdom. Well, wisdom becomes a kind of discernment, a practiced capacity for making sound judgments in particular cases, with moral or aesthetic convictions, the case may be, moral or aesthetic. And a mind that's filled with that kind of wonder and wisdom naturally guides the spirited element and controls the appetites, self-discipline follows. Well, the other thing I suppose that you might ask about the Phaedrus is, what's that lengthy, tedious final section about rhetoric and all sorts of functions of rhetoric? For a while I say to myself, now, let's not have them bother with that final section. Then I decided that having to work through it would be not only a good exercise in self-discipline for the soul, it might be a means of reinforcing the realization that there's a difference between rhetoric and dialectic. You see, rhetoric without dialectic is a tool of the appetites. Manipulative. A way of getting what you want. 6 easy lessons about how to win an argument and win friends and influence people. No, if rhetoric is to be saved from that, it must be by virtue of the operation of dialectic. The cultivation of wisdom. And so we come full circle in thinking about Plato back to where he began with the sophists. His epistemology. We need knowledge of ideals by means of dialectic. It's in the light of this sort of consideration that the Pythagoreans, perhaps Pythagoras himself, who coined the term philosophy. Literally, what is philosophy? It's the love of wisdom. You see? Now, one note there. Just now I said that love for Plato is eros, desire. But here's another term. Not eros, but phileo, filiad, noun. Phileo is a sort of friendship love, where you love something for its own sake, not out of wanting it for you, but for its own sake you love it, for friendship's sake. And philosophy is the love of wisdom for wisdom's sake, or if you like, for the good sake, rather than as a matter of appetite, self-interest. A lot of wisdom.